If you're a student of history, you've probably been told you have to read E.H. Carr's What is History? And for good reason. It's one of those books that totally changes how you see the past. So today, we're going to break down its biggest ideas. By the end of this, you'll have a whole new toolkit for your own thinking, your presentations, and especially for writing those killer essays. So what's our game plan? Simple. We're going to follow Carr's own path chapter by chapter. We'll start with the most basic thing. What even is a fact? And then we'll build all the way up to the huge question. What's the whole point of studying history anyway? All right, let's jump in. Okay, first up, Carr goes right for the foundations. He asks, what is a historical fact? Now, most of us think of facts as these solid, objective little nuggets of truth, right? Like bricks we can use to build a story of the past. Well, Carr is about to take that idea and just blow it wide open. This quote, right here, this is the old school 19th century way of thinking. This was the dream. Historians like Lord Acton genuinely believed that one day they could collect every single fact, put them all in the right order, and write the final, definitive, ultimate history of the world. A beautiful idea for sure, but Carr says, sorry, it's a total fantasy. And here's why it's a fantasy. Carr just flips this whole model on its head. He says facts aren't these sacred things just lying around waiting for us. He has this great analogy. Facts are like fish on a giant slab at the market. There are tons of them. They don't speak for themselves. The historian isn't some passive collector with the basket. No, the historian is a cook. They decide which fish look interesting, which ones to pick up, and how to cook and serve them. And you know what? Most of those fish get left on the slab forever. So just think about that for a second. An infinite number of things happened in the past. They only become historical facts when a historian, living in their own time with their own biases and interests, decides that something is important enough to be rescued from the past and presented as part of a story. It's a two-step process. Something happened, and then a historian decided it mattered. And that leads us right into Carr's next big idea. If the historian is the one choosing the facts, what are those facts really about? Is history just the story of great individuals, the Caesars, the Napoleons, the big names? Or is it actually the story of huge, impersonal social forces? You can kind of see the two extremes of the argument here. On one side, you have the individualist view, which basically says society is nothing more than a collection of individuals. But then you have this beautiful idea from John Donne that no man is an island. We're all fundamentally shaped by the society we're born into. Well, Carr just looks at this debate and says, you're asking the wrong question. He says it's a false choice. It's not one or the other, it's both, always. The individual and society are in this constant dance. Any so-called great person is both a product of the historical moment they live in and an agent who actively shapes what happens next. And this, right here, is such a powerful tool for any history student. Seriously, instead of just writing a presentation that says, Napoleon was a military genius, you can build a way smarter argument. You can say, Napoleon was a product of the French Revolution, which created the perfect conditions for his rise, and he was an agent who then defined what France would become. See the difference? That's a game changer for your grade. Okay, so this brings us to the real heart of doing history, asking the why question. If history isn't just a simple list of facts about famous people, then how do we actually explain why things happened? For Carr, this is the whole job. Being a historian is being a student of causes. He says that explaining World War II by saying Hitler wanted war is totally useless. I mean, yeah, it's true, but it doesn't actually explain anything. He says it's like saying milk boils over because it has a propensity to boil over. It doesn't tell you anything about the real reason. The Russian Revolution is a perfect example of what he means. A top-level answer to why did it happen can never be just one thing. A great historical argument weaves together this whole complex web of causes. You've got the long-term problems, like land reform, mixed with the short-term triggers, like the disaster of the war, and even individual factors, like Lenin's leadership. And here is the absolute key takeaway for your own essays. The real skill of a historian isn't just making a list of causes. It's about organizing them. It's building a hierarchy. You have to argue which causes were fundamental, which were secondary, and which were just the final spark. That process of ranking and arguing is what makes a real historical explanation. So, if history is this super complex thing, a mix of selected facts, individuals shaped by their society, and this web of causes, you have to wonder, is it all actually going anywhere? Is there such a thing as progress? Now remember, Carr was writing in the shadow of two devastating world wars, and yet he still argues for a belief in progress. But
And this is a huge but. It's not some smooth, straight line going ever upwards. He sees it as a path with reverses and deviations. Humanity makes these huge leaps forward, then suffers horrible setbacks, only to pick up and move forward again, maybe in a totally different way.
And another crucial point he makes, progress isn't the same for everyone. What looks like a massive step forward for one group can mean disaster and decline for another. And the group that leads the way in one era is probably not going to be the group that leads in the next one because they get too invested in their own past successes.
So let's pull all these threads together. After everything we've talked about, what's the ultimate point of it all? According to Carr, why should we even bother studying history? This is it. This is probably Carr's most famous and important idea. History isn't just us looking back at a static, dead past. It's an active, unending dialogue. The worries and concerns of our present shape the questions we ask about the past, and the answers we find in the past help us make sense of our present. It's a two-way street.
And by taking part in that dialogue, we're doing more than just learning about old stuff. We're learning how societies work. We're learning how change happens. We're learning how we got to right now. And for Carr, that understanding gives us a greater ability, a greater sense of mastery to actually shape our own future. So in the end, Carr's message is incredibly empowering, especially for a student. He's saying that real history doesn't come from just memorizing the facts someone else picked out for you. It comes from the quality of the questions you decide to ask. That's the real engine of historical discovery. So the question he leaves us with is, what questions will you ask?